Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
I'm Jay Stu.
And today we're talking about The Matrix Reloaded, released in 2003, written and directed by the Wachowskis, starring Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, Jada Pinkett Smith, Harold Perrineau, Harry Lennox, and Hugo Weaving, among a few others. This movie's got a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes. I looked that up. I'm going to try to look up scores more often, I think. And this was obviously the much anticipated sequel to 1999's The Matrix. I was thinking about it today while I was watching the movie. I think for me especially, but I would assume this was probably like the most anticipated movie of 2003.
Yeah. In conjunction with Revolutions, because they came out in the same year.
Right, yeah, same year. But this was part two. You know, this was The Matrix 1 was such a huge hit and such a big part of my life. I know it was mind-blowing to me that I could not wait to see part two.
Yeah. Same.
I'm trying to think of the other 2003 movies. X-Men 2, I was probably pretty excited about. Or no, was that? Yeah, that was 2003. X-Men 2.
Oh, I just thought of another one. Return of the King.
Oh, yeah.
Was 2003.
Still,
that
I
was
think
really big for me.
Return of the King was 2003?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings movies came out 1 year apart. 2001, 2002, 2003. Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
Yep. But for even Return of the King, I went and saw. X-Men 2,
now that we're
I was
talking
obviously
about
very
this,
excited about. But this movie, I still think was probably my most anticipated.
Yeah. So wait. X2 came out in 2003?
Yeah.
Wow. That might have been the greatest year for movies of all time.
No, I disagree. Personally,
I don't know about that.
Personally, 1994 is huge in my brain, and 1999 was pretty big in my brain.
All
too.
right. What is it? Go on.
1994? What movies from 1994?
Yeah.
You got Shawshank Redemption, Pulp Fiction, Forrest Gump,
Oh,
Speed.
So I'm
Lion
talking. Right. I'm talking anticipation.
Well, I mean,
as far as anticipation, I mean, yeah,
1999.
I guess
It's Star Wars Episode 1.
Yeah,
that was pretty. That I remember standing in line for hours to get tickets for that movie.
That's one of the most anticipated movies of all time.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because, I mean, we talked about this, I'm sure, during the Star Wars episode, but like, and I had gotten into Star Wars before Episode 1 came out, and I was excited about it, but I do not remember being like, I cannot, like, you know, just thinking about it, and I don't know. But yeah, Matrix Reloaded, couldn't wait. Return of the King, the conclusion of, you know, the Lord of the Rings movies, where we already had two incredible movies. You knew that they had all been directed back to like at the same time, so the quality was going to come. You know, you didn't have to worry.
Right.
Like they were all filmed at the same time.
Back to back.
Yeah. And then X2, who knew that movie was going to like outdo the original? But yeah, 2003. What a year.
Yeah, I'm looking at 1994 right now, and it's just banger after banger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 94 was an amazing year for movies, but I don't know if, like John said, the anticipation for those movies wasn't like it was. I mean, granted, I was 11 years old in 94, so half of those movies I didn't get to see when they first came out.
4. So.
Yeah, I saw The Lion King, but I didn't see Pulp Fiction or Shawshank Redemption until much later.
And they weren't sequels, you know. These were all sequels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In 2003, yeah, you're right. Yep. Well, I remember seeing this opening night, and I don't know why. I don't know if it was like the first theater where tickets went on sale or something. But I saw it with a few of my friends, and we saw it down at, I don't even remember where this theater is, but it was Magic Johnson Theater somewhere outside of Atlanta or something. I think my friends and I might have been the only white guys in the theater. And I remember seeing a preview for The Last Samurai, and I never heard of that movie before. And I'm watching the preview and I'm going, this movie looks amazing. And then when the title comes up and says The Last Samurai, the entire theater just laughed. And I remember being like, what? I was like, this
You know
movie
what's-
looks amazing.
I think I remember people, not the entire theater, but I think I remember seeing the trailer for The Last Samurai 2 and people like kind of
Laughing.
making fun of
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Because it is a weird concept. Like, you know, before.
Tom Cruise is the
Yeah.
last samurai.
That's funny.
But I remember it was a very good theater experience. I like the theater. Everybody was just excited to see the movie.
Mhm.
You know, the conclusion of the highway chase scene, which we'll definitely get into. And you see Harold Perrineau's character. Why am I blanking on his name? Link. When he goes like
Yes!
that's how the whole theater. That's what the theater did. You know, it was just that everybody just had that same reaction. It was amazing. So I remember actually having a pretty good time at the theater, even though they all laughed at The Last Samurai in the beginning. But yeah, what about you guys? Did you guys see it opening night?
I did not. I unfortunately I haven't seen any of the Matrix movies in the theater.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like, did you not like the movies until like after they'd
No,
all been released?
I loved them. My mom wasn't really a movie theater person. She liked
I
movies,
gotcha.
but she didn't like going to the movie theater.
Fair enough.
Gotcha.
And I just didn't bother asking her.
Right.
I didn't want to be disappointed, so I just
Yeah.
didn't forget it. But yeah, I was very excited to buy this on VHS.
Nice.
And as soon as I popped it in, it came on. Like my body got tingly. Like I was so excited to watch the movie. Yeah, I could not sit still because I love the first one.
Yeah.
The first one is my second favorite movie of all time.
A deserved spot.
Yeah. It, in my opinion, it is one of the greatest science fiction movies ever. And then having the sequel to that movie come out, and in my opinion, it's still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I know a few people don't like it, but I know I love it. I love it. I was very excited to see it, and I was very, very pleased. For a long time, it was the one I watched the most.
Oh, really?
Up until maybe about 6-7 years ago, and I like really started watching the first one a lot, like dissecting it.
Yeah.
And now Resurrections is your favorite.
Of course.
Yeah.
Cinema.
Is it is there anyone that doesn't have that as their favorite Matrix movie? I saw it opening night, definitely. And like I was in college and I just, we went with like our friends and just opening night went and saw it. And I remember definitely liking it a lot. And I do like it now. I would say, like Stu said, not everyone likes it. And I've always had the feeling that Reloaded was primarily not liked by the majority of people.
I've had that same feeling. I remember talking about it in school, and like people were just bashing on. I'm like, did we watch the same movie? Like that was one of the greatest car chase scenes ever.
Yeah, I love the car chase scene. Yeah, the Reloaded is a movie that, and I've only seen it maybe 6 or 7 times. And every time I pop it in, I have this feeling like it's not the level of the original Matrix, but I always really enjoy watching it.
Yeah,
it's a good movie.
I think that is because the first one was new. It was kind of uncharted territory. I know Dark City came out before the first one, but this like the Matrix was the first one that was like popularized and everybody knew, and it kind of blew everybody away. And in my opinion, it was probably maybe Lord of the Rings, but it was probably the last great innovative blockbuster. Because like I said, we had never seen a movie quite like that, and for it to be so immersive and have so much information in it and still be appealing to everyone
Right.
is is a great feat. And I still believe that the second one kind of carried that on, but I don't know, it's weird. I don't understand. I kind of understand why people don't really vibe with the second one, because there's a lot more exposition in this film.
Right. You're being told all of the mysteries that you still carried away from the first one.
Yes.
And now you're being told what that is, and a lot of people, had their own ideas as to what they wanted it to be, and it didn't fit with that.
Right. And I mean, my idea for the sequel, they did everything that I wanted them to do. I wanted them to primarily be in the Matrix, and for about 75% of that movie, they are in the Matrix, and it's awesome. You got some of the best fight scenes. You got one of the best car chase scenes ever. You got one of the coolest protagonists ever. I mean, it's a solid action sci-fi film, and I just don't understand why people don't like it.
That's something. Now that you mentioned the protagonist, that's something that I feel like all of the characters did so well.
Yeah,
was take the same character from the first movie and bring it in, like, the way that everyone plays the character in Reloaded is the same character that they were in the Matrix.
It truly feels like a continuation, and not just a cash grab sequel. It feels like they were really continuing.
And 4 years,
a story.
4 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Stu, I agree pretty much with everything you said. I mean, the action scenes are incredible, and they are, they top what they did in the first movie. They made, they had these big, like, especially the car chase, the freeway scene, which is really long, but it never feels like, okay, this is going on too long. Like, it's so exciting, and it's so much bigger than anything they kind of did in the first movie. And the first movie has some amazing action sequences. But it was huge. They topped the original, but I do think the movie kind of gets bogged down by the exposition and a lot of the philosophical talk. There's a lot of, like, the Merovingian and the Architect, especially. They just, it just kind of, I don't know. That's where my mind starts to wander, is when both of them have kind of their big monologues. And it's supposed to be, the Architect especially, is supposed to be like this big reveal. And yes, it is kind of a big-ish reveal, but it's, I don't know. Those scenes are the scenes that I don't ever do this, but I could see myself kind of fast-forwarding through those moments, just because.
The Architect scene is a big reveal, but it doesn't feel as big as it is because the scene is so contained, and it's just him talking.
Right.
Yeah, it's very dry.
So when you
and
learn,
Neo's reaction to it isn't like, what? It's not like a big, like, thing. He's just like, I don't believe it.
He's like, really?
Yeah. So it doesn't really feel like a big reveal, even though it is a big reveal. Like, the fact that we're finding out that this is the 6th time that Neo has become the one, and the 6th time they've destroyed Zion, and it's all just, they keep doing the same thing over and over again. That should be like this big shocking reveal, and it just doesn't really feel like it in that scene.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. And he probably doesn't have that reaction because he really doesn't believe him.
Right.
So he's not like, what? Because he's like, whatever you're saying is just whatever. But he does believe him enough to go through the door.
Right.
To save Trinity.
Yeah.
Because love.
Because love. I will say this. I remember, like, when the movie ended, I kind of sat there and was like, what is this movie about? Like, what is Neo trying to accomplish throughout the film? And I have a hard time answering that.
Really?
I mean, I know the Zion is about to be destroyed. They're trying to stop Zion from getting destroyed. It just feels. It seems like the plot is a little convoluted. And I know Neo's big thing is he doesn't want Trinity to die.
Yeah.
But I still they're trying to get to the source, I guess, to stop. I don't know. It just seems. I don't know. Something about it just seems kind of convoluted to me.
It feels convoluted because there's so much exposition,
right?
But it's actually straightforward. They're trying to get to the source because the prophecy says that once the one reaches the source, the war is over.
Gotcha.
Then they realize that is a lie. That's not what happens. Or it doesn't happen the way they think it will happen. Yes, the war will be over, but they're supposed to lose.
Right. Because the architect explains that actually by the one going to the source, he activates it
recycles.
Coding.
It reloads. The Matrix reloads.
You just blew my mind. I don't think I ever made that connection. That's hilarious.
Yeah, when the one reaches the source, the Matrix reloads.
Oh, interesting. The Matrix reloaded.
Yeah. he talks about Zion, what is it? There's 7 males and 14 females or something that are selected.
Right. I guess if Neo had gone through the other door, then I forget what the architect says would happen, but it was Trinity would obviously die, but then it would be kind of the end of the war. But it would be because the machines destroy Zion, and then they have to select 14 females and 7 males to repopulate Zion.
Right.
And Neo decides to not do that, and he goes to save Trinity, which is an amazing scene. God, him flying
so epic
that fast with all the cars being swept up behind him and everything. That scene was so good.
I was on the edge of my seat, bro. Yeah. I'm like, is he gonna get her? Is he gonna save her?
I know. Even though you've seen it a dozen times,
right?
Yeah, it really shows how much power Neo has at that point.
Yeah,
when he's driven by a true, passion.
Mm-hmm.
He's.
And I love too when you see the real world, and you see he's sitting there and he's asleep, but you see his hand grip the chair. He grips it tighter to try to kind of give him more of that boost. I love that. That, I mean, like I said, the good stuff in this movie is so good.
Yeah.
And then the bad stuff of the movie is not so bad that I think it ruins the movie. I think some people think, perhaps. It's just, it lowers it a little bit. It doesn't quite get it to that level of the first film, in my opinion, because of the bad stuff. And none of the bad stuff is really that bad. I think in my opinion, the worst scene in the movie is the Zion Rave. I hate that scene.
Oh yeah.
That scene is on right now. I
skip it.
I don't skip it, but because I don't like doing that during movies. I don't
I agree.
Skipping part, even parts that I don't like. But if I have to do something, I'll just get up, leave the room. And go
there you go. That's when you go make your sandwich and stuff.
I go make my sandwich. Go grab a cold beverage.
It goes on too long, and it feels very out of place to me. There's machines coming to destroy their world essentially, and they're like, let's party, And I know Morpheus just gave this inspiring speech and everything, but I don't know, it just feels.
My bad. Go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, I feel like the studio had to kind of keep the Wachowskis in check a lot of the time, especially during the first movie. And then with the success of the first one,
they were like, do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily, but I feel like with this one, they were like, we got it. The Wachowskis were like, look, people are going to love this. And yeah, exactly. They're like, this is why we need it in here. And they're like, just put it in and we'll trust them. And no one liked it. I've never heard anyone talk anything good about the Rave Scene.
Upon multiple watches, I understand why it's in the movie. They're celebrating because they know the machines are coming. They're celebrating their humanity. Does it absolutely need to be in the movie? Of course not. It definitely could have been cut, but I understand why they're having that rave.
You go to raves every weekend, don't you, Stu?
Because of this movie. You just pretend you're at Zion.
I mean, you know, to each their own. So,
what did you guys think about like the opening of the movie, like with the whole dream sequence?
So that's one thing I did want to point out was you have people questioning throughout the movie. You know, is the prophecy real?
Mm-hmm.
But that is showing the audience right there that there is something to prophecy, because Neo is having a vision of something that actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's proof right there that this prophecy, you know, magic, can be done.
Yeah, and
So
that's one thing we'll probably get into it later in the episode. But that's one thing that I don't quite love about the movie is that there's some things that happen outside of the Matrix that aren't explained.
Right.
The fact
Like,
that
did they ever explain when he uses his power?
Yeah, they don't, and that
I figured that's
me.
where you were going. Yeah.
Yeah, it really bothers me that they don't explain how he's able to do that, other than him just being the one. I thought that was a major plot hole.
Do they not explain it in Revolutions at all?
No.
Oh,
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna bring, save this for the end, but that was one of the most impressive endings, though. Like when that happened in the theater, I remember thinking, like, what? He's got powers outside of the Matrix too.
It's a cool concept. It's just if anything needed exposition, that needed it. Sure. that definitely needed to be explained.
I didn't need it in this movie, but it definitely needed to be explained in the Revolutions. And I have probably seen, aside from Resurrections, I've probably seen Revolutions the least amount of times.
Yeah.
Same for me.
So I just couldn't remember if they explained it or not.
No, they don't.
Well, that is a big hole.
They expand on it, but they don't explain it, because he's able to like see the code outside of the Matrix.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, this is cool, this is wonderful, but how is he able to do that?
Right, how is that possible?
They don't explain that.
There's a theory that I think would have been a really, really cool route to go down, which is that outside of the Matrix, they're still inside the Matrix. That,
like,
getting
via
like
Wi-Fi or something?
No, like there's another layer. So you wake up in the real world, but it's literally
it's still actually hooked up to a machine.
Yeah, it's a trick of the Matrix to make you think you woke up, but you're still inside the Matrix.
Oh yeah, that's definitely some Inception type stuff.
Yeah.
That would actually have been kind of impressive if they had revealed that in Revolutions and been like, actually, Zion and all this stuff, none of it exists. It's all still part of the program.
Right.
It's all part of the Matrix.
In fact, yeah, none of you have woken up yet.
Right.
You're still in the Matrix.
You're still just powering our machines.
I don't know if I would have liked that, but
going back to the beginning of the movie, I don't want to talk too much about Revolutions. I know these movies are almost one movie, and maybe we should have done a Reloaded Revolutions as one episode, but I actually like that this movie does have the cliffhanger ending, and it does have some stuff that is set up for part 2 that doesn't get explained in this movie and whatnot. Like, we don't actually see the machines getting to Zion or anything like that, but it doesn't feel like 2 hours of setup. And there are some movies out there that they shot back to back that just feels like 2 hours of setup and nothing happens.
Two Towers feels like setup.
Does it? Two Towers, I remember being my least favorite of, which I know is crazy because most people think that that's their favorite Lord of the Rings movie, but to me, it's my least favorite. Still great.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But I was thinking of Pirates of the Caribbean 2, Dead Man's Chest. I remember I've only seen that movie one time in the theater, and I remember hating it because
I did too.
It was 2.5 hours of setup. Nothing happened in that movie. And granted, I haven't seen it in forever, so I've been meaning to rewatch it. But I just remember walking out of the theater being like, that was a waste of time. Because it was nothing but setting up for the third movie. I cannot believe my
ears right now. Dead Man's Chest, out of the 5 movies that they've made, Dead Man's Chest is the best one.
Part 1 will always be my favorite. I have not seen the 5th one yet.
Bruh, the Kraken?
Again, I'm totally remember it because I haven't seen it since 2000.
It's crazy because I just watched it last night.
Did you really?
Yeah, and I'm wow.
I'll rewatch it. I'd love to rewatch it, but I don't remember liking it at all.
Oh my god!
I've only seen Dead Man's Chest once too.
Yeah,
and it was in the theater, and I had the same reaction.
We got to do it. We got to watch those movies.
Stu, I disliked it so much that I didn't bother seeing the 3rd one in the theater. And I
disliked it so much. I still haven't seen all of the 3rd one. I started it.
That's hilarious,
and it took me forever to get to.
Bro, the third one is
too long.
The 3rd one is not as good as it's too long. It's not as good as the 2nd one in my opinion, but it has the best 3rd act out of all 3.
Okay.
The first 3. Because they're fighting in this maelstrom, and like there's a sword fight and a cannon fight and a wedding all going on at the same time. It's a lot going on. I think in that third act.
Vaguely remember that.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've only seen 2, 3, and 4 one time each. I've seen the first one a few times, and I love the first one. But
I will give you in the second act the story kind of comes to a halt, and they are setting up some stuff. But like the movie as a whole, that kind of irks me that you don't like it. Davy Jones is a fantastic villain.
Yeah, he's awesome and he looks great too. I just don't I can't really talk about the movie because I haven't seen it in so long. I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater.
That has to change.
Okay, we'll add it to the list of movies next episode. Pirates of the Caribbean. We got to start with the first one though. We can't just jump right into the second one. Anyway, this movie did not feel like that to me. This movie felt like a fairly complete movie with a cliffhanger ending and some setup for the third movie. Mm-hmm. It did not feel like 2 hours of setup to me.
That's how I feel about Dead Man's Chest. Like it feels like a complete movie, but with a cliffhanger ending. But.
Maybe I'm totally wrong. That's how I remember thinking when it came out in the theater. I would love to know who else out there loves Dead Man's Chest, if John and I are way in the wrong. Well, I remember, John, you had just started dating Jordan when that movie came out, and I had already seen it and didn't like it, and she wanted you to see it and was talking about how good it was, and I think I was like, I think I may have influenced you, maybe, I don't know, but I remember.
Well, I remember she was trying to play off that she hadn't seen it.
Oh, and she already had,
and because I think she had whispered to you like, I've seen it, and like I had no idea because she was supposed to go see it with me for the first time. Yeah, I was very excited to see that movie. I liked Pirates of the Caribbean, the first
me too.
one, a lot. I have since gone back and watched it recently, and I don't know if I'd say I like it as much as I used to.
I watched the first one recently. I don't like it as much as I used to, and the reason that is because the first hour is a drag.
Oh,
once they reveal the curse, the movie is fantastic from there. But it's getting to that point that just feels like a drag. But
gotcha.
But back to the Matrix.
Back to the Matrix Reloaded. The first note I wrote was in the beginning of the movie when Morpheus is having the meeting and Neo senses something, and goes. He eventually has that fight with the three agents, and I remember thinking it's so cool seeing Neo fight three agents like it's nothing. Because in the first movie, agents were the most dangerous, opponent. Like if you saw an agent, I think the protocol was to run away. Like you were not supposed to fight an agent. Right. And here he's fighting three agents and it's no problem. It's seeing, the next level Neo, I just thought was so cool.
Yeah, he's seasoned and he's adapted quickly because this movie is set only 6 months after the first movie.
Right.
And he is he's Superman.
Yeah.
He like you said, he handles the agents with ease. He's flying all around the city, and it's
Right.
just
he's doing, I don't remember what he says.
His Superman thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
doing the
Yeah.
Superman thing.
And
yeah.
then he just goes and just flies. Yeah, I love that whole introduction. And I remember too with the first one, there was like this debate in at our lunch table one day about, and this was before I had seen it. And this is kind of one of the things I think that intrigued me to see it, because I didn't see the original Matrix in the theater. But they were like saying some people said he flew and some people said he jumped.
Yeah.
And this confirmed that he was flying
he
yeah,
was
for
flying.
right off the bat.
Whoever said he was jumping was not watching this
Right.
movie. They're drunk.
Right. Yeah, so I loved seeing, and even one of the things he mentions is the agents have upgrades, but that's nothing ever really comes from that. We don't really see any sort of upgrade from the agents. He just says upgrades, and but he still takes them out with ease.
I assume that they're faster. I think that's just
maybe
the upgrade.
I remember the trailer used that line after we see the twins. So you see the twins and you see them kind of phase out, or whatever. And then it cuts to Neo and he goes, upgrades. So I remember thinking going into the movie that those were like the new agents. And that wasn't really the case.
I love the way they explain some of the new characters in the movie. So like when he goes to see the Oracle at the park or the apartment complex, she says that, it's revealed that she's a program.
Right.
And everything in the Matrix is a program. The ones that you don't see are the programs doing what they're supposed to do. And the ones that you do see are the ones that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So the twins were in the Matrix universe, they were ghosts. And the henchmen of the Merovingian, they were vampires.
Oh, right.
Because when they go into that room with what's her name, Persephone, they're watching the vampire movie, and she shoots them with a silver bullet. Like, they're vampires.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I love.
They never explain that at all.
You had
the Oracle does. I never put it together like that, but the Oracle does say, like, when you hear about ghosts and werewolves and vampires, any of those stories, that's programs doing what they're not supposed to be doing.
Yes. So when it gets to the point of you seeing the twins and going to the Merovingian, you kind of have to read between the lines, because they don't explicitly say that they're ghosts and vampires, but the hints are there. The clues are there for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
I always wondered why. I always thought the silver bullet thing was weird, because they are just programs. I was like, why does a silver bullet delete a program? But now that you've talked about that, I guess that's kind of interesting. Yeah. What do you guys think about the twins? That was obviously a new.
I think they're great.
No, they're cool.
Yeah, they are cool.
Two of the coolest characters in the movie.
I remember thinking this. I never had this thought before until I watched it tonight. But they can phase in and out, obviously, and so like that's one of their coolest powers, I guess you could say. I love on the highway chase scene, how they like kind of go from one car to the other. They phase out of one car and I remember thinking, if Neo can fly and break all these laws of physics, I thought, why can't he phase in and out of things? And then he actually does it at the end of the movie. He puts his hand into Trinity and takes the bullet out, and then he puts his hand in and starts her heart. So then I was thinking, well, why doesn't, in the next movie, he should just be phasing through walls and stuff. He should just be, but I don't think he ever does it. I think this is the only moment. I think that's the only time we ever see him do that. And I just remember thinking, if nothing in the Matrix is real and he can stop bullets and do all this stuff, doors and walls should not affect him. He should just be like.
Well, that's in the third movie. They're not really in the Matrix much. He's in the Matrix
they're not.
In the beginning of the movie. They get him out, and then he doesn't go back until
the big fight,
the final battle.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people, again, I don't want to talk too much about the third movie, but I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people don't like that movie as much, because it's very little Matrix in that movie. It's a lot more Zion and real world stuff.
Yeah, but like the battle at the dock is epic. that is a war. That's a war film right there.
Right. I did forget that Harry Lennox was in this movie, which I thought was cool. And then Gina Torres shows up for a very brief moment. She was Zoe on Firefly, so when I saw her, I was like, oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And even Lee Wanell's in the movie. Did you notice that? Do you know who that is?
Yeah, I know who Lee Wanell. He's not in the Matrix. He's in the real world, right?
He's in the real world, correct.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that leg brace on, and
yes,
and he's the one that's like kind of limping, and then the platform
he gets
falls.
impaled. Yeah.
So he's it's a brief scene, but I remember when he shows up, I was like, hey, Lee Wanell. Which, I mean, most of the movie was shot in Australia, so I guess and this was before Saw, so he was probably still just kind of
I think Saw was the next year.
Yeah, working actor and probably working on Saw, and but yeah, I thought that was kind of cool, little before they were famous type thing, So let's talk about we talked about the Oracle. Oh, I think his name is Seraph.
Yes.
I thought that was cool. I was reading about him, and he, talking about how he protects the Oracle. His program is essentially a firewall. He's like a firewall to the Oracle, which I thought was kind of neat. But the fight scene with all the Smiths. Let's talk about that scene. Yeah. So I remember as the scene was starting, I remember thinking, this scene sucks. And then
viewing?
Well, before it started, like I remember thinking, like I remember this fight scene's no good.
Okay.
And then as I'm watching, I'm going, this fight scene's actually not bad at all. And it's like the first 2/3 of the fight scene are actually awesome. And then the last third looks very CGI, cartoony, terrible. But that's the only part I remembered going into the scene. I was like, this whole fight scene is cartoony and looks terrible. But it's really not that bad up until it's pretty much once he grabs like the pole and starts fighting with the pole.
Then
I love myself. I love the whole fight scene.
Yeah,
really?
I love the whole fight scene. As time goes on, it looks more and more video game like.
It looks very
video game. But conceptually and the way it's shot, it's a great scene. Yeah, it's just that the CGI is of its time.
Well, and I remember even thinking in the movie theater that it looked cartoony. It was the CGI of the time. It reminds me of in the first Spider-Man when Tobey Maguire's jumping, like he first gets his powers and he's jumping from rooftop to rooftop. He looks very cartoony and rubbery in that scene too. And it was just CGI computer graphics artists back then, I guess, couldn't quite get human movements down quite right. And so everybody looked a little rubbery and cartoony, and that's kind of how it feels in this scene. At least the last third of the fight scene. The first 2/3 look amazing. And it's not until they kind of start really breaking those physics, with the laws of physics, where he's got the pole in the ground and he's kicking everybody in the face going in the circle and stuff. That stuff all looks very kind of its time, I guess you could say, the CG of its time, which is just not
I still liked it though.
I do too. When he puts down the pole and like starts kicking them like to go around, I love that part. I love that part.
It's funny. I've never really liked that fight. I mean, like I said, watching it tonight, I was actually impressed by it, the first 2/3 of it. But because of that cartoonish nature, I've never really liked that fight scene that much.
Yeah, that I'm watching the movie right now, and that scene is about to come
Don't forget,
up.
Justin, they are in a computer world.
Well, that's true, I guess. But I don't think I can
supposed to
suspend
simulate
my
reality.
disbelief that much.
But he was becoming so powerful, it was
that he becomes a cartoon.
Yes, everything. The Matrix couldn't keep up with him.
Right. Okay. It was buffering, and it was
Oh.
All right, you've sold me, John. The next note I had deals with the Merovingian, and maybe you can answer this one for me, Stu, since you talked about the vampires and stuff. I don't know if you. There's one Asian guy on the Merovingians team, and he's not really wearing white. He's wearing like cream-colored suit. But I feel like there's got to be some sort of significance because everybody else on the Merovingians team is wearing black, except for this one Asian dude who wears.
He's also the last one that's taken out.
Yeah, he's the last one that gets taken out too.
He's hit with the what's that thing?
But if you notice, there's that part where like Neo traps him on the wall.
Right.
I don't remember like and then he punches him.
Yeah.
And I thought he knocked him out because if you watch in the background for like a good minute, he's just sitting.
He's just like,
same position.
Maybe
stuck
he did.
on the wall. But then, like at the end of the fight, Neo comes to him, and he's good.
I don't know.
But
I remember that one character for whatever reason always gets punched like one time by Neo and falls down, and so it's like I couldn't tell if he was like the worst fighter on the team or what, but he always comes
ironic. It's ironic because he's actually one of the fight choreographers for the movie.
Oh, really?
He like
that's
orchestrated all of that.
That's funny. But yeah, if you watch that scene, it's like every time he comes up to Neo just kind of hits him one time and he like falls down, and it takes him a minute to kind of get up, and then it's like it just seemed like he was kind of weak, even though he is the last person to get taken out. But I was just curious maybe it was just the fact that he was the choreographer and they wanted to kind of highlight him or something. But I just was wondering why he was the only one not wearing black.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything about it. There's nothing like the trivia about it or anything, so wasn't sure if there was any sort of significance there. I used to have, by the way, so like I said, I loved the Matrix trilogy when it came out. And so I had a bunch of action figures from the Matrix, and they used to have this giant kind of diorama of that staircase, and they had like Neo kind of half flipping, and there was a couple other guys, one of the guys with like the sword or whatever. I don't think the Asian dude was a part of it, but it was this big thing. I used to have it, but it was too big. I ended up having to get rid of it. Like I just had no room for it. I used to have a huge Sentinel, and pieces kept always falling off of it because every time you had to move it, it was like it would just almost fall apart.
Yeah.
That was actually in the Matrix Resurrections. I remember they showed like a shelf and that Sentinel was on the shelf. It was supposed to be like
hilarious.
Supposed to be like merchandise from the video game. And I remember I went like, oh, I used to have that. Like when I watched the movie, I did the Leonardo DiCaprio thing. Oh, I actually still have a few Matrix things up there, but I kept the ones from like the first movie and I got rid of the sequel stuff. But
I had, if you remember, I don't remember if we were going to Six Flags or if we were coming back from seeing Revolutions. But yeah. But we went into a grocery store and they had this like 1 foot tall little like cardboard cutout of Trinity and Neo and Morpheus, and it said Matrix Reloaded. And yeah, so I guess they were selling the DVDs, and I knew, a lot of Reloaded wasn't that popular of a movie. It had been released on DVD for a month or so, and I asked one of the staff if I could take it home with me, and they said yes.
Nice.
So I was so excited. So I had that, and I also had kept. They had Powerade bottles that they had a special green Powerade flavor for the Matrix Reloaded. And for a long time, I kept that bottle and had it like as a little decoration.
That's awesome. I wish movies did more of that still. Like, I know there's still some tie-in promotion stuff that movies do, but not anything like they used to do in the 90s and 2000s. No. So I kind of wish they still did that type of stuff. I know they brought back Ecto Cooler for a little bit when either Ghostbusters Afterlife or the 2016 Ghostbusters came out.
It was the 2016 one.
Was it?
Because I went and got it.
Did you?
And it was delicious.
I wish I had.
It definitely brought back, dude, it tasted just like it. It brought back the nostalgia for sure. Yeah. But they didn't have Slimer on it. Like, it wasn't, because the old boxes had like that cartoon Slimer.
Yeah. Maybe they didn't have the rights to the real Ghostbusters stuff or something, which would be weird because I imagine Sony owns that stuff too, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Speaking of, I nerded out too much, and I have actually purchased, I have 3 cells from the real Ghostbusters cartoon. One of them is a big, one of them is a big Slimer.
Nice. It's awesome. I love that cartoon. I have the first 5 volumes on DVD, and they have 6 through 10, but I never purchased those. I need to, but yeah, I love that show as a kid. Back to the Matrix. after the Merovingian and everything, that's when they get into the highway chase scene, which is, I personally think, the best scene of the movie. And I love how they set it up too, with about, Trinity talking about, you told me never to go to the highway. You said it was suicide. And Morpheus is like,
Yes.
well, let's just hope I was wrong.
Let's just hope I was wrong.
Right. We're putting everything right on the prophecy that I'm saying is true.
Right.
But let's hope I'm wrong about this.
Right. Right. But we totally see why Morpheus would say that, because
Right.
the agents can be anyone. And so it's like they can just keep transferring from vehicle to vehicle to vehicle to...
From Cadillac to Cadillac to Cadillac,
Right,
because it was
exactly.
clearly sponsored by Cadillac.
Clearly. Maybe that's the only car that exists in the
From
movie.
CTS to Escalade, CTS, Escalade.
But I love pretty much every single moment of that car chase. And especially once Trinity gets on the motorcycle,
Yeah.
that whole sequence is just incredible. I love it. I do love too that Trinity and the Keymaker jump off of a bridge onto a moving vehicle and plant their feet firmly and don't move at all, which is great. And then an agent does it later too, which he's a computer program, so maybe we can let that slide. But you'd think landing on a vehicle going 70 miles an hour down the highway would...
they're all, I mean, well, the Keymaker's a program.
Well, that's true too, but Trinity's not. But again,
Yeah, but
they're in the Matrix and they can break the laws of physics and everything.
Yeah.
I know.
They've been trained.
Yeah.
to
They've
jump
been
on moving
doing this for a
vehicles
long time.
and not fall backwards. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This is the one movie where you can actually let characters
Right, let that-
get away with
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah, because it's explained in the first movie. Some laws can be bent, others can be broken.
Right.
And that, that they do that a lot in these movies.
Intentionally.
Yes.
And I love so one of the notes I wrote too was once the agent becomes the truck driver, which is the truck
Mhm.
I think that Morpheus and the Keymaker are on, the
Mhm.
music to me sounded very reminiscent of Terminator 2, and I wondered if it was like kind of a little homage to Terminator 2, but it has like a
Probably.
very kind of din-din, din-din kind of, like driving sound to it that I just couldn't help but think of Terminator 2.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because it wasn't that, but there was a moment where I was reminded of Terminator 2 also. And it's when they were running from all of the Agent Smiths and the Keymaker.
Mm-hmm.
And he closes the door as all of the Agent Smiths, like at the same time, they'll kill them. And they are all pointing their guns down the hallway.
Uh-huh.
And when he closes the door, it shows the gunshots. And there are these like silver
yeah.
holes that reminded me of the holes in the T-1000.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. So yeah, the two trucks smashing together. That CGI still holds up decently well, I think. It does. I mean, it maybe you could say it looks a tiny bit cartoony because of the ripple effect and everything, but I think it really works. And then seeing Neo come in and
oh man,
pick up
that's
Morpheus
so awesome.
and the
He
Keymaker
just
and flies
through the fire, just
so good.
swoops in like Superman. Oh, so good. It's so good.
It's incredible.
And I love the music in that scene. It's very like
all of the music
high
for
octane.
all of the like just the feel of the music with the horns and everything.
Yeah.
Just for all of them, just the Matrix music it's so unique, you know.
Yeah.
Like when you hear it,
immediately know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
because
hard to do.
Yeah, because Don Davis, he's a composer for these movies. And when the Matrix Resurrections trailer came out, and they played Jefferson Airplane,
right, yep.
And at the end of that trailer, when you heard the Matrix fanfare, oh my god, it was like the nostalgia just oozed out of me, bro.
I wish that movie had been as good as that trailer.
Yeah, that trailer was that first trailer was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. It was really good. The person who cut that trailer did a great job because they knew what they were doing, and they took a bad movie and made it look good.
Yeah. I kind of want to watch that trailer.
Yeah, I know, right? So I guess. Oh, one question I had for you guys was, what do you think about Agent Smith being able to go into the real world, to inhabit the body of a real life person?
I like it.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense because when the person is infiltrated in the Matrix, that when he wakes up in the real world, of course, of course it makes sense that it wouldn't affect his physical body.
Sure.
But his, I guess, essence or whatever is Agent Smith.
Right.
So I kind of like that, even though it's not quite explained well.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the concept of it.
I do too. It's one of those. It's one of those things you kind of just have to go with. Like you said, they don't really totally explain it. I mean, you see Agent Smith copy himself onto the guy in the Matrix,
right?
And so then when he answers the phone and leaves the Matrix, he's now in that guy's body, and you're like, okay, cool. And I do think it's a natural progression from the first movie, where Neo is fighting Agent Smith in the Matrix the whole time, and he does that in this movie too, obviously. But to have Agent Smith go into the real world kind of was a cool, next step. And I know, they don't obviously get very far with that, but I do like how...
Yeah, you don't see him again until the third movie, until the end of this movie,
right? You see him... Well, he tries to kill Neo in the real world when they're leaving. Yeah, and then the kid shows up, and he's like, I just wanted to say good luck. And then we do see him one more time when the council is asking for volunteers to help Morpheus. He leans down, and he's like, I think we should volunteer. And the captain of that ship's like, shut up. Yeah. So, but then after
Roy
that,
Jones Jr. That was so random to see him in this movie.
Who was that?
Roy Jones Jr. He's a boxer.
Oh yeah, I wondered because he didn't seem like he seemed like he wasn't bad by any means, but he seemed like a not actor. If that makes kind of sense, Yeah. So I wondered who that was. Yeah.
And he wasn't really playing a different guy. He was Roy Jones.
Yeah, he was playing himself,
being Roy Jones.
Right.
Because when they're having that meeting in the Matrix, and Morpheus asked one ship to stay behind. He's like, you asking us to disobey a direct order.
Yeah.
He was like, I do it just to see what Deadbolt does to you.
Right.
I was like, that's Roy Jones Jr., bro.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know at the end of the movie, because like you said, you really don't see his character after Smith comes into the real world until the end.
Bane. Yeah. That's his name, Bane.
Yeah. And I remember in the theater them panning up and showing Bane laying on the table, and I didn't know who he was.
You're like, who's that?
So you completely forgot about him.
Yeah. Plus, it's upside down, so he's a little
So I was like, that was an interesting cliffhanger, but later it's like, oh, that was Smith. Okay.
And obviously, they talk about an EMP was set off, and they were basically ambushed by the machines and stuff. And so clearly, once we see the one survivor, we realize it was Agent Smith who set that EMP off and got all those people killed.
I love how they spin, right? To throw the EMPs, the Sentinels.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I love that ending. Seeing Smith, seeing Bane on the table and realizing, Agent Smith is right there next to Neo, and there's something's going to happen in the next movie. And then, of course, like I said, when I saw it in the theater, seeing Neo stop the Sentinels in the real world, that was mind-blowing. I thought, can't wait to find out what happens there. And then did you guys, well, Stu, you didn't see it in the theater, but John, did you sit through the credits and see the preview for Revolutions when you saw it in the theater? Do you remember?
Oh, I highly doubt it, because that was not a thing,
Yeah, it was not much of a thing. I remember my theater cleared out, including most of the people I saw it with, except for one other guy. It was me and one other guy. We sat through the whole thing. We saw the preview, and then when we left the theater, our friends were waiting for us, and I remember I telling them, I kind of rubbed it in their face. We were like, "We saw the Revolutions preview," and I think they were like, "What?" So, but I did the same thing.
I remember watching it on Apple.com.
Oh yeah. Oh nice.
Oh yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah. I used to get excited about the new trailers on Apple.
Yeah.
I did the same thing for Iron Man though. I did the same thing you did. I just walked out of Iron Man without really thinking, and I was standing around talking with friends, and then all of a sudden all these other people walk out, and I was like, "Wait, was there something at the end?" And they were like, "Yeah, they're talking about the Avengers Initiative," and I was like, "What?"
That's amazing.
I was bummed. I didn't get to see that because I don't think I saw Iron Man again. I don't think I saw that one twice in the theater.
Yo, I remember watching that post-credit scene for the first time. I was like, they're really doing this.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't believe it.
Right.
I could not
that
believe
was
it.
the first time we had seen Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury. It was like incredible. I was really bummed I didn't see that in the theater. I really was upset with myself for not sitting through those credits.
That is the only MCU movie that I have not seen in the theater was Iron Man. Yeah, I watched it illegally.
The only one I did not get to see in the theater was Shang-Chi. I had seen all of them up till that point. My son, I think, had just been born, and I just couldn't get myself to the theater in time to see that one. But I did actually get to see Eternals. And Spider-Man, obviously. So the only one I haven't seen or didn't get to see in the theater was Shang-Chi so far. I haven't seen Thor yet, but maybe we'll see. I don't have any more notes really for The Matrix Reloaded. I know I'm sure there's some other stuff we haven't talked about.
Yeah, there's quite a bit we haven't talked about. What'd you guys think of the cast?
I mean, I love the cast. Everybody from the first movie.
More specifically the newer characters.
The newer characters. Jada Pinkett as Niobe, I thought worked really well. Harry Lennox, I thought was great. I like the guy that plays Councilman, forget his name, the white guy. I liked him. I thought he was good. The kid we see. Oh, that was one thing I wanted to mention. Was one thing I really liked about the movie was seeing when Neo and Trinity get off the elevator and they think they're going to have this alone time, and then there's all these people who have brought like offerings and want Neo to protect their children and stuff. I thought that was really cool. It was like, their savior, and they wanted to see him and touch him and stuff. And
you get a lot in that because you get that all these people have hope in him. You get the weight that Neo has to deal with.
Right, exactly.
Trinity's like you said, they think they're getting alone time, and he has to let her go for longer. Like they were right there.
And I really like that little moment where she starts to leave, and he's like, "Wait," and she goes, "They need you," and he goes, "I need you," and she's like, "There's time." I thought that was I really liked that little exchange between them. But yeah, that was I thought kind of a powerful moment, seeing all those people waiting on Neo.
That's something that I was going to bring up too. Is the chemistry between Neo and Trinity in this movie is insane. Like they nail it. You can feel and see how much they mean to each other all throughout.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it works better because the feeling is mutual now. Whereas in the first movie, you could kind of tell that Trinity was in love with Neo.
The cat wasn't out of the bag yet.
And Neo is just completely oblivious.
Yeah. Right.
But
exactly.
the feeling is mutual now, and it feels natural.
Yeah.
One of my favorite new characters, I'm watching them right now, is the Merovingian.
Oh yeah.
I love he's a really good villain. He just feels so
slimy.
I was thinking dastardly, but I was who says dastardly? But I'm watching the scene right now where he sends the cake to the chick that I love this scene. It's just, I don't know. This scene is great. So, like you can see the code in the Matrix, and it's just.
I never got that he actually leaves to go to the bathroom with her. Like, I mean, I guess I guess I did because you have
I never put that together either, actually.
I did, because she leaves.
Right? Yeah, no, you're right. It's 100%.
Yeah, she leaves, and then he finishes whatever he's saying,
right,
and then he goes
he's
to the
like, I got
bathroom.
better. He's like, I got better. I have more important business to attend, and then he leaves. And then you have who plays his wife?
Monica Bellucci.
Monica Bellucci. She plays Persephone.
She mentions the lipstick.
Yeah, he'll be in the ladies' room. Yeah, exactly.
Right. But
He'll be in the ladies' room.
Right. But I always thought that was just, he was off doing his own thing, and never thought about it being with the woman
with the cake.
He coated the cake knowing that she was going to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And he was right behind her.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, it's obvious now that we're talking about it. Of course it's her. But I'd never put that together either, actually. I just assumed he was always cheating on his wife, and she just knew it.
And I'm sure he is.
He probably, exactly.
Oh, so you guys thought that it was just some random chick and not that specific.
Right, yeah,
right.
exactly.
Okay. Right.
But now that we're talking about it, of course it's that woman. But yeah, I like that. The one thing I remember thinking watching it this time is, why did she tell her husband that what she was doing? And the only thing I can think of is because she wanted to, get to him. She wanted to upset him.
Yeah.
But it really kind of like, if I had been Neo, I'd have been like, whoa. Like, let's not reveal our plans here just yet.
That's kind of the thing. The Merovingian is he's the allegory of the metaphor is he's kind of the king of the, what's the word I'm trying to look for? What's the word I'm looking for? He's supposed to represent Hades, and Hades is the king of the underworld.
Right.
And Hades' wife is Persephone, and Persephone hates Hades. So of course it would make sense that this Persephone hates the Merovingian. Because the whole idea of them going to the Merovingian is for them to get the keymaker. Because the Merovingian runs like the underground, like the secret stuff in the Matrix, like I guess Matrix trafficking and stuff like that. So it makes sense, like as far as a metaphor, their relationship, and them being married but kind of hating each other.
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
Because he does all this dirty stuff, and she just has to sit there and deal with it and look pretty, and she's sick of it.
What'd you guys think of Trinity's reaction when she's like, I want to kiss Neo?
I'm watching the scene right now.
So I
love it.
I love her reaction in that scene. The one scene I think that this is a total joke, but the one scene I feel like that is missing from the movie is afterwards, where Trinity is just super pissed at Neo and doesn't talk to him.
They just have like a shot of them driving the car. She's in the passenger seat, and they're just silent.
And he's like, I had to do it.
He's like, I had to. Like, we got the keymaker, don't we?
Right. I'm doing this for Zion. Sure. Yeah, tell yourself whatever you want.
She's like, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
That scene was missing, but otherwise I thought, no, but I really did. I mean, I love that she immediately pulls out the gun and she's like,
why don't you sample this?
Right.
or yeah, she's like, I want you to kiss me. And she's like, excuse me?
Right.
I beg your pardon. But yeah, we I guess now we at the the architect scene, because we've already discussed the fight.
Right.
We get to the architect scene, and that's heavy exposition, and is the architect? Do you guys see him as a villain or just neutral?
Oh, he's a villain.
Because I used to see him as a villain, but I kind of think he's neutral, but he's clearly annoyed by Zion, because I kind of see it as he's just trying to do
But he
trying
mentions
to trying to do his job, and Zion is getting in the way of doing his job.
Yeah, I kind of see him as a villain too because he does not have a problem with destroying Zion.
No.
And granted, I see what you're saying. Like, it's not that he necessarily hates humans and hates Zion. He's just like, this is how it goes.
Yeah, he's just doing what what he's supposed to do.
He's like, we use humans and to have the Matrix, and then an anomaly shows up and we destroy Zion. He's like, this is the 6th time we've done it. This is how it goes. And so I don't really see it as like, he's not like a mustache twirling like evil villain, but he's definitely on he's the machines. He is the machines. And so I do think he is a villain, but it's interesting. I don't know how, I'm torn about the architect. It's like part of me likes the scene and part of me really doesn't like the scene. And I think we touched on it a little bit already. It's like this big reveal that doesn't feel like a big reveal. And John and I talked about him a little bit briefly before we started recording about how they obviously want him to sound like super smart / pretentious. And
he comes off very pretentious.
And so half of what he says almost sounds like gibberish to me, just because it's like, because
he's speaking so straight.
Right.
He's talking as if he's a machine.
And not only that, I had my subtitles on, and he's talking so fast.
Yeah.
That like you're trying to read and gather what he's saying, but like you can't, because the next line is like coming up, and it's, I mean, like I get the the idea of everything, but the way that he presents it, when you're listening to it, it doesn't.
It's almost inaudible.
Right. Yeah. Did you guys see the? I don't have this movie. I technically do have this movie on DVD, but I took it off my shelf a while back to make room, and so I think it's sitting in a box in my attic. But I think on the DVD, and I don't actually own this on Blu-ray yet, so I only have it digitally at the moment. But there was a special feature where it was from the MTV Movie Awards, where, and I don't know if they still do this. I haven't watched MTV Movie Awards since I was a kid, back when they were cool. But they used to, like, the host of the MTV Movie Awards would always kind of insert himself into these movie scenes,
Yeah.
And so I remember it was Justin Timberlake this year, and he does a scene with Neo. It's where he's talking to the Oracle. But then there's another scene with Will Ferrell as the architect talking to Neo.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Scene.
And Will Ferrell is basically using he's like vis-a-vis ergo, he's like doing all that, and he's just talking nonsense. And I remember thinking, like, this is a perfect, like, parody.
Yeah, I do remember that. That was very, very funny.
Yeah, I'm sure it's on YouTube. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, I remember Will Ferrell doing a pretty good job playing the architect in that scene.
Yeah, there's also another reveal about the Oracle where he says, if I am the father of the Matrix, then she would undoubtedly be its mother, meaning that she is older than the Matrix. And what I find interesting about that is a lot of people on a surface level just think that the Oracle is a psychic, she's all knowing, and I don't think that is the case. I think that because she's older than the Matrix and she was designed to study the human psyche, and because she's seen every iteration of the Matrix, she can predict human behavior, kind of like a meteorologist.
That's very interesting.
So a meteorologist doesn't know the weather. They just can predict the most likely outcome based on weather patterns.
Right.
And she's like that with the human psyche, because she knows how humans operate. She can predict the most likely outcome for human action. That's just how I interpret it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's pretty cool too.
Yeah, I like that idea.
If you can't tell, I've watched this movie.
You've seen
like
this a lot more
1,000
times. Yeah, more times than I have. That's for sure. That is for sure. I do like in the scene with the architect all the reactions from Neo. Like it's all the possible reactions he could have to what the architect is saying, and I think the camera kind of zooms in towards a screen, and it ends up being like the one that is the actual reaction, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But I remember it's always kind of, you see different, you know, he's like, you know, laughing, and some of them are yelling and giving the finger to the architect and stuff, which I think is great. It'd be hilarious if that was actually what he did at the end of the movie. Like he's this stoic character throughout the film, and then all of a sudden he's just like cursing at the architect and everything.
When he's giving him the finger, that's the one that gets
yeah, that's great. And I like how he is not like threatened by the architect at all when he leaves, and he's like, "If I were you, I'd hope we, you know, don't see each other again." And the architect's like, "We won't,"
Yeah.
which I think is kind of funny. But
like, do I look worried?
He's like, no.
Part of that pretentiousness that Stu is like, yeah, he's very pretentious.
And then that goes into the scene where he saves Trinity, and that's just, I can't get over how awesome that flight scene
so
is.
epic.
It's so good.
It's so epic.
And I like how, you know, he phases into her and takes the bullet out, but that's not all he has to do, right? He like, it's weird that he like, he jump starts her heart, but I like it. I think it's really cool.
I like it too. It is weird. I know, like when he puts his hand in to get the bullet out, it's like I mean, it's the Matrix, it's code and everything. He knows what to grab and what, and I guess he just phases through her organs and just is able to grab just the bullet. But I do remember thinking like, that's gotta hurt. Like his hand is inside her body, and she reacts to it and stuff. But I guess, you know, being Neo, he's not like, he doesn't rephase his hand inside her, because then that would essentially kill her, even though she does die technically.
Well, that's the thing. I think that we see it as him phasing into her, but what is actually happening is, because they're in the Matrix and it's all code. It's all just,
he's just erasing that part of the code, basically.
Yes. So his code is bypassing parts of her code,
right,
to take out the bullet code,
right. And then when he starts her heart, he's basically rewriting her code, so that way it's not a still heart, it's a beating heart. And so
yes, he just
still very cool, visually cool too, just him reaching in and grabbing her heart and pumping it, you know. It's I like the end of this movie. I think the end of this movie is really great.
It is. I agree.
I think the whole movie is pretty great.
It is.
I was starting the episode, I was thinking, you know, hearing Stu talk about how much he loved it, I was like, wow, I'm not on the same page with Stu. But the more we talk about it, I think you're kind of selling me on certain aspects of the film, and I think I like it. Maybe, you know, my rating might be bumped up a little bit more than I was originally going to give it.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready to go into ratings?
Yes,
I'm good.
I'm ready.
All right.
I'm good.
Well, Stu, why don't you start us off?
I mean, what more can be said about this film? It's still a great film in my opinion. Not quite as good as the first one, but I don't think it's a significant step down. As much as I love this movie, and like I said, for a long time, this was the one I watched the most. As much as I love it, there are some problems that I have with it. Just the lack of explaining certain things, which is ironic because there is a hell of a lot of exposition in this movie. But with that being said, I have to give this movie 4 out of 5 Sentinels.
4 out of 5 Sentinels. Very nice. John, what about you?
I am also going to give it 4 out of 5 Nebuchadnezzars. I didn't remember, like, I wouldn't have guessed that I would have given it 4 out of 5 before watching it again. But man, just watching it, I'm like, there's really not a part in the movie where I felt like I wasn't having fun. Like, you know, you got, you know, little areas here and there where you're transitioning stuff to stuff, but nothing ever felt like it was a chore to watch.
Right.
And and to be the sequel to The Matrix and to hold up to the degree it did, yeah, I think it was an impressive film that I enjoy watching.
Yeah.
So 4 out of 5.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the only part that feels like a chore is the architect.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, it's the rave. That would be the one scene.
See, I forgot it. I
You'd already blocked it out of your memory. For me, it's the rave scene. That's the only scene that really kind of feels like a chore. The architect scene can kind of feel like a chore because of because of the architect. But for me, the rave scene is the one that's the only part of the movie. You were saying there's not a scene in the movie that you're not having fun. That's the only scene in the movie where I don't really feel like I'm having fun.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I think we could all agree on that. But I think with the rave scene, because it's purely a stylistic thing and not essential to the movie, I can forgive it because you can take it out. It doesn't change the movie.
No,
whether you take it out or leave it in. So
right. So I was originally going to give this movie 3.5 stars. But I think the more we talked about it, I mean, like I said, the good stuff in this movie is really good. And it's not as bad of a sequel as I kind of had put in my brain. I kind of agree with John. Like, watching it again this time, aside from the rave, I really didn't have a moment where I was like, oh man, this movie, let's move on type of thing. Every scene was entertaining, I thought. So, I'm going to give it 4 as well. 4 out of 5 Agent Smiths. 4 out of 800 Agent Smiths.
Whoa, that's a low score.
Yeah, that's a very low score. No, 4 out of 5.
I mean, he took over the whole planet, so that's 4 out of 6 billion.
Yeah.
Agent Smiths.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about The Matrix Reloaded. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can also leave us a comment on our Instagram or Twitter. Both handles are at Cinema Heroes. Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM Podcast. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, leave us a comment below, give the video a thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. I can't believe you guys don't know how to do that.
Yeah, listen. We will never ever
I know.
be able to do that.